Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. This time, it's something from a channel called Extinct Zoo. And I'm gonna watch two videos from them. I'm gonna watch their most popular one, or I guess their most viewed, and one that I picked out for myself that I thought was interesting. This one's called "The Only Time in History That Water Was Safer Than Land," and this is the most viewed video on their channel, I believe, unless I made a mistake again, which is very possible. But we'll see what it's about. Let's check it out.
There seems to be an unspoken rule in nature, where life in the ocean and seas must always be far scarier than life on land.
I mean,
This
it is
is
way
largely
dark
seen
down there.
today and is also seen throughout history, with
Ooh,
even the
big
age
boy.
of dinosaurs having had aquatic nightmares that would have given you more heebie-jeebies than the likes of the T-Rex or dromaeosaurs, for example.
Ooh.
In fact, it's actually quite hard to find a moment in Earth's history where your best chances were in the water rather than on land. However, there was a short window of time, a very long time ago, as in before the dinosaurs existed, where your chances
That
of
is a long time
survival
ago.
were actually better in the oceans and seas, since nearly everything above water, including Mother Nature, seemed to be designed for maximum nopeness. This was the Lopingian. This name most likely means nothing to you,
Indian?
but it represents the last epoch of the Permian period, and played out between 259 and 251.9 million years ago, which means that it bordered the Triassic period, and led to people nicknaming it the Late Permian. This was one of those periods in
Sounds
history
about right.
where Earth was unrecognizable in nearly every sense, including when it came to time itself, as during those days, the moon had a closer orbit with Earth, causing the days to be shorter than they are currently, at around
Really?
22 hours.
Oh, a
To
whole
add on
2
to the
hours?
confusion, geography was nothing like it is today either, since most of Earth's landmass was tied up into the supercontinent Pangaea, leading to Africa, the Americas, Antarctica, India, Australia, and parts of Europe all being connected. Only to the east could you find decently sized landmasses that were free of Pangaea's
Could you imagine if that's what it was like now? Like, what would happen?
clutches, with the largest quote-unquote island consisting of present-day Siberia, Kazakhstan, and North China. While to the south, you would have swam into another island composed of South China and various regions of Southeast Asia. Additionally,
So somehow they combined together and I guess attached itself to some other landmass. That's gonna be interesting.
Turkey,
That's interesting.
Iran, and Tibet were also islands at this point,
Really?
being surrounded by the Tethys Ocean on one side
Aren't they currently landlocked? Maybe I'm confused. But aren't they not?
and the Paleotethys
That's
on the
interesting
other.
though.
Combined, these two bodies of water were undeniably large, but they were still nothing compared to the superocean that lay just west of Pangaea, Panthalassa. This prehistoric ocean was unlike anything before it or after it.
I mean, it's literally every other surface of the earth. Like literally, there's no other landmass out there. It's just all water after
And it
that.
occupied well over 60% of the Earth's surface, outsizing the current Pacific Ocean by 2 times.
That's not
Just
surprising.
imagining an ocean that is double the size of the Pacific is nerve-wracking, and
Yeah.
probably meant that you should have avoided it like the plague.
Yeah, and if it's all one just giant supercontinent, like all concentrated in there, why the hell would you? Ain't no reason to be going out in that ocean. Unless you're crazy. That's about it.
But, despite its grand size, Panthalassa, and the other oceans for that matter, were all actually fairly tame when it came to what was in them.
Really?
There were of course sharks, who had evolved 200 million years earlier, and if you're something of a Permian enthusiast, then you might be picturing the Helicoprion, an 8-meter or 26-foot long shark that has become something of the poster child for the Permian marine mega.
What? I will never understand why its jaw was like that. Maybe it wasn't like that. Maybe it's just whoever put the fossil together is wrong. Unless it was just one. Was it just one giant fossil, the entire thing? As if it was, why? Why would it be like that?
Fauna, and possessed one of the strangest and most unsettling mouths of all time. That
You could say
consisted
that
of a
again.
cluster of large teeth on the bottom jaw, which were arranged into whorls.
Why?
Yet, while this giant shark was indeed from the Permian, it had already died out by the Lopingian, leaving the oceans rather empty of giant life.
Really?
That being said, there were still relatives of this shark swimming about, though none that got that big, as the biggest, Helicampidus, was only 2 meters or 6.5 feet long, similar to the length of a leopard shark. So definitely not an immense threat, especially since its teeth were designed for soft animals like squids, not bony food.
What?
Meanwhile,
Never mind.
other sharks, like the
Oh my god.
sphenacanthids and hybodonts, while diverse, were even smaller, typically
Huh.
growing no more than 1 meter or 3.3 feet. The eurypterids, or sea scorpions, a group of now extinct
Jesus.
arthropods, were also present.
It actually looks like a scorpion too, and it even has a stinger
But we're
tail.
not doing so well, because while they used to be highly diverse and giant during the Devonian period, they were now on the brink of extinction, having never fully recovered from the Devonian extinction event, with only 2 genera being known from this point, and neither were large nor apex
Look at
predators.
that. Look at that. I know it's just a recreation, but how accurate is it? Did it actually have a stinger?
And for the most part, pretty much every marine group wasn't doing well, partly due to
Really?
the Capetanian mass extinction event that had taken place 2 million years prior. It's a relatively obscure event, but it was actually more deadly than both the KT extinction and the Triassic-Jurassic extinction.
Really?
Its effects have been bad everywhere, yet marine life got the brunt of it. And thus, during the Lopingian, you could see some trilobites, ammonoids, and cephalopods lurking about, but not in any great numbers or size. And things would only get worse for marine life, but we'll get to that later. At this moment, the waters of the late Permian should sound quite boring, but this is a key fact to take solace in, as on land you would have gotten no breaks. Like in the water, the Capetanian extinction had brought devastation to terrestrial life. However,
That's no
life on
surprise.
land recovered more swiftly, and was
Oh.
actually made arguably more dangerous than before, since the extinction took out the old rulers of the earth, the Dinocephalians, and
so some new
therefore
ones.
leaving the door open for new rulers to arise. The Dinocephalians was
Oh.
a group that consisted of large-bodied therapsids, who were extremely
Hungry
diverse and
boy.
plentiful throughout most of the early and mid-Permian.
Though the
Yep.
last one though, holy shit. That last one, nah. Like the other two, the top two look like they'll be, yeah, they'll be carnivores, predators. It'll be scary if they come after you. That last one though, that one just looks horrifying. Should be in a horror game.
Yet despite their success, they failed to make it to the late Permian. This absence allowed multiple groups to get ahead, but there was one group in particular who benefited the most, unfortunately for others, and that was the Gorgonopsids.
Oh,
These prehistoric animals were first discovered by paleontologists
it almost looked like a crocodile.
was the Gorgonopsids.
Yeah. Although, more taller. Like maybe like a wolf and maybe a crocodile and a hippo put together.
These prehistoric animals were first discovered by paleontologists all the way back in 1876.
Oh, that's
And their
an old
remains
boy.
were so horrifying that the researchers decided
What
that
the
the
fuck?
Gorgons from Greek mythology were the perfect monsters to name them after.
Oh, okay.
While diverse, Gorgonopsids still generally shared the same characteristics, which included deep-set teeth, parasagittal gaits,
Oh, Jesus
long
Christ.
narrow skulls,
No.
and razor-sharp elongated
Do
incisors
not be
and
running towards me
canines,
like that.
making them among the first saber-toothed predators to evolve. This presence of saber teeth made them look a bit like saber-toothed cats, such as the Smilodon, and their bodies were superficially similar too.
Oh, God.
But these killers were neither cat nor feline. They weren't even mammals, as a matter of fact.
Reptilian?
Instead, they appear to have been therapsids, like the Dinocephalians before them, who were more closely related to mammals than reptiles, but still
Really?
were not mammals.
Oh.
And like the Dinocephalians,
Oh, no.
Gorgonopsids had been around during a good chunk of the Permian, first appearing 265 million years ago.
Could you imagine you're in like the second grade and you see that thing walking down the hallway? Oh, fuck no. You're dead. You're
in the
dead.
middle stage. In those times, these saber-toothed
Aw.
predators were very small,
Little boy.
being no larger than a person's foot, making them one of the smaller creatures of that time, and forcing them to hunt small therapsids and reptiles.
Mm-hmm.
However, as time passed and each new genus
And
evolved,
they got really big.
they got bigger and bigger, a trend that exploded during the late Permian after the eradication of the Dinocephalians, which ultimately led to the emergence of the largest
Ooh.
Gorgonopsid of all time, Inostransavia. This
Looks
predator
scary
wasn't
as
just the biggest of
fuck.
its kind, but also the largest terrestrial predator from the late Permian, with exceptional remains suggesting that
Ooh.
adults could have been over 11 feet or 3.5 meters long, while weighing over 1,000 pounds or 400
Why does the eye look like that in the skeleton? Don't do that. No, don't draw it like that. That's just nah.
53 kilos.
That's too scary.
Equivalent to the size of a large bear, though on
God.
average, individuals are more comparable to tigers. In addition to being much larger than most Gorgonopsids, The Inostransavia was also built different, as it possessed extremely sturdy long limbs, which made it both durable and surprisingly fast, allowing it to outpace a myriad of medium to large-bodied herbivores, which once caught were in for an absolutely terrible time.
Yeah, I can tell.
As the Inostransavia possessed elongated post-canines and supersized upper canines that were 15 centimeters or 6 inches long,
Jesus Christ,
making them among the largest teeth seen in non-mammalian therapsids. In addition to being lengthy, the weapons were curved and finely serrated, allowing them to easily slice through flesh, incurring massive blood loss and causing catastrophic damage to vital organs. But despite clearly being lethal, it's not 100% sure how the Inostransavia hunted, with the two schools of thought being that it either used tactics similar to what is seen in Smilodons, i.e. taking out the necks, or it would do something similar to a bite and run, letting accumulated blood loss and shock take a toll over time.
Kind of like the Komodo dragons.
Neither are fun ways to go.
Definitely
so you definitely
not.
do not want to run into this apex predator.
I would rather be bitten in the neck. That's quicker than, bleeding out. Knowing that this thing is following you as you're bleeding out. If they're anything like the Komodo dragons, they'll probably start eating you before you're actually fully dead, as long as you're not moving too much.
Which was also a very hard challenge for animals back then, as Inostransavia achieved a widespread range that included now parts of Africa, Asia, and European Russia. This saber-tooth also appears to have been very adaptive, as it routinely popped up in a multitude of very different biomes, such as warm floodplains in South Africa, or cold, arid deserts in Russia, where relief was only found in the occasional shallow lake and thin forests, which consisted of Peltis burmacian, the dominant flora of the late Permian. It's because it lived in these cold deserts that some paleontologists think that it may have had fur as well, yet this idea is still unconfirmed. Now, having one giant gorgonopsid prowling both hemispheres of the Earth would have been bad enough,
my God,
but the late Permian was home to many more than just the Inostransavia, with dozens of other species of gorgonopsids being known of, many of which lived in the European part of Russia as well, including this.
That one kind of looked cute. This one not so much. No,
smaller
crazy eyes.
Proboslavlevia and the medium-sized Suchogorgon, resulting in gorgonopsids having complete dominance over many ecosystems where herbivores, no matter their size, had a gorgonopsid as their main predator, and also making Permian Russia one of the last places you'd want to visit. Although it was actually much worse down in South Africa, where a whole subfamily of giant gorgonopsids had independently evolved alongside the Inostransavia.
It's big and has dead snake eyes. Look at, oh my God. That's fucking horrifying.
Yeah. And they were the Rubiginae. While the Inostransavia was the largest single gorgonopsid of all time, the Rubiginae were on average the largest family, and were distinguished by robust skulls, the lack of a parasphenoid bone, frequent tooth replacement, and the possession of deeply serrated teeth that were likely even better for cutting than those of the Inostransavia. They were fairly stocky too, with some coming very close in size to the Inostransavia, as demonstrated by Rubigia atrox, a species of gorgonopsid who resided within what is today South Africa and Tanzania, where it sometimes grew to be 10 feet or 3 meters long.
That is
this body size alone made it an apex predator, but what was really impressive and menacing was its skull, as it took up over 15% of an individual's total body length. And not to mention that recovered skulls were also extremely thick and had signs of skull bossing, which are bony protuberances that indicate that this predator was made to bite and grapple with powerful large prey. Yet coincidentally,
that's not fun.
Like the Smilodon 250 million years after it, the Rubigia did not have a very strong bite, with reconstructions indicating a bite force of around 715 newtons, only 20% more powerful than the bite of a wolf. Which really just shows how well designed its teeth were for piercing effortlessly through flesh and tough hide.
They'll take it down, this
like the Inostransavia, the Rubigia would have been able to alter entire ecosystems by its lonesome.
Taking its head before
Yet sadly for all, it was almost never alone, as indirect evidence suggests that it routinely coexisted with other members of its subfamily. It consisted of 9 genera, all ranging in size from medium to large. And if this wasn't bad enough, it's now thought that it coexisted with Inostransavia too, since both had a presence in late Permian South Africa. Given their similar size and fairly similar builds, the two most likely shared the same predatorial niche, likely leading to frequent conflict. And that all goes to say that this truly was the planet of the gorgonopsids, and their dominating presence on land made water a definite safer choice. But just to really prove the point, I should also mention that the late Permian was home to many other predators too, that were nightmare.
Looks like a hippo. It's getting taken out by What looks like a croc.
Perish within their own right, with the most notable examples being the therocephalians. In an emerging trend, this clade was once again therapsids and originated during the Middle Permian. Although, unlike the gorgonopsids, they had not achieved such large sizes in this time. Although, they were equally widespread, and actually more diverse, with species being found across Russia, Antarctica, Africa, and China. A small handful were even herbivores,
looks cute.
but the vast majority were predators.
Yeah, I'll take the herbivore one as pet. That sucker looked adorable.
Actually could have been confused for gorgonopsids to the untrained eye, as they too had relatively large skulls and similar body plans. But there were key differences, with therocephalians tending to have broader, deep skulls, smaller, straight teeth, shorter bodies, and more compacted builds. And as mentioned, they were more diverse, resulting in many developing hunting techniques not seen in gorgonopsids. And there were even a chance that a couple, namely the dog-sized Ichibengops and Eucymbersia, were venomous, which, if accurate, would make them the first tetrapods to have evolved venom. You also had ones that are often interpreted as being semi-aquatic,
looks like a weasel,
like the Ictiosuchids, while others were fully terrestrial, hunting large animals using unusual saber teeth, as showcased by the Skylacosaurids. But of all the therocephalian teeth, as showcased...
Why does it look like a badly drawn jaguar? It's a super long snout. Oh my god. It looks funny. Although it could probably rip my face off, I'll probably laugh at it as it's doing it because it looks so funny.
Case by the Skylacosaurids. But of all the therocephalians, the one who stood out the most was the Mascarinus, a jaguar-sized predator with a lion-sized head that was equipped with numerous, very sharp conical teeth. Its disproportionately large head suggested a fairly strong bite, and paleontologists think that it hunted prey by pinning them down with its powerful forelimbs, before dealing out damage with its razor.
What show is this? It just showed this thing taking out a kid.
Hunted prey by pinning them down with its powerful forelimbs, before dealing out damage with its razor-sharp teeth.
I kind of want to know what program this was.
Teeth and powerful jaws. And to further its legacy, fossil records show that Mascarinus was among the most abundant therocephalian during the late Permian, and one of the only non-gorgonopsids to have achieved apex predator status, perhaps even replacing gorgonopsids in certain environments. But interestingly enough, while not as successful as Mascarinus, there were bigger therocephalians, including the Megaweitzia, a 3-meter or 9-foot long distant relative of the Mascarinus, who prowled European Russia during the first half of the Lopingian.
Man, Russia's got all the terrible things going on up there. Holy shit. Like, I think, if I've been listening, like, every species you said right now has all been in Russia as well.
To date, it is the largest known therocephalian, and based on coprolites, aka fossilized feces, we know that it likely fed upon large dicynodonts, which it might have killed by using venom. Specifically, some studies on its skull...
So I guess Russia was the Australia back in the day. It's got all the top predators and the venomous ones too. Yeah.
Seems to suggest that in life it had a venom gland, and possibly multiple venom ducts, that would have delivered fatal amounts into prey while biting them.
Jesus.
However, because remains from its prey tend to be in poor condition, this claim is not fully accepted by the paleontology community. By this point, the late Permian should come across as a hectic place, with therocephalians and gorgonopsids running about. But even they were not the entire iceberg, since there were still a bunch of other carnivores, all very distinct and unusual in appearance.
Looks like giant salamanders.
For starters, you had the superficially croc-like Proterosuchids, who were slender but could still be rather large, and were equipped with giant needle-like teeth.
I'm sorry. It's just me. Steven. My name.
Unlike the previously mentioned carnivores, this group were reptiles, and were either terrestrial or semi-aquatic hunters who were found on every continent besides Antarctica and North America.
It's another one where I'll be screaming and laughing as it's tearing me apart because it looks like that. Why does it look like that? It's fun.
Then there was the Croniosuchia.
That's just a crocodile. It's literally just...
Who were again superficially croc-like,
Yeah.
and had extensive armor along their backs as well, perhaps to help protect against attacks from large therapsids. Members of this group could be quite different, and were
Ooh.
sometimes fully terrestrial, and other times semi-aquatic. And while they were usually no larger than a monitor lizard, some genera, like the Uralurpton, could get quite sizable, specifically in European Russia, where specimens grew to be the same
Russia
size
again.
as female American alligators. Amphibians, or rather primitive amphibians, were also present and thriving on Pangaea, and were honestly the biggest reason why an animal should be wary around fresh water, as many
Ooh.
evolved to be specialized ambush hunters
Looks like a
that
frog.
opportunistically fed on anything they could catch in the water, or anything that ventured too close to the water's edge. Of the
Got teeth
numerous
like that,
families
bro.
that existed, arguably the most lethal to human-sized prey were the Rhynsuchidae, a family of tetrapods from which living amphibians likely descended from. Each species had
They
4
look-
limbs,
ooh.
a fairly long tail, and body shapes akin to that of giant salamanders.
This looks. Why does this look familiar? It looks like something. Something I've seen before, but I don't remember.
Or crocodilians. The largest
It's just like a giant freaking frog that eats anything. Look at. It's a cross between a frog and an alligator, or a crocodile, like he was saying.
member you could find in a body of fresh water was the Uranocentrodon, a
sorry, what?
13-foot or 4-meter behemoth that resided in South Africa, along with our friends the Gorgonopsids and Theratocephalians. Talk
That
about a bad
mouth,
place to
though,
live.
holy shit.
And then in European Russia, that also had its fair share of terrestrial hunters, there were the Archaegosauridae,
I'm
to
sorry,
make
what?
up for the missing Uranocentrodon.
What the
This was yet
fuck?
another tetrapodal family, but they were more slender and narrow than the Rhynsuchids, but could still get pretty big.
More
with certain
crocodiles.
genera, like the Melosaurus, reaching 10 feet or 3 meters from head to tail.
Jeez.
With so much going on, it's hard to believe that herbivores even managed to survive. But they sure did. And across large swathes of Pangaea, you would have stumbled into an array of dicynodonts, cynodonts, captorhinids, and parareptiles.
Wait, that second to last
Compared
guy
to the
was.
carnivores, herbivores were actually
herbivores?
more diverse and had developed many tools to survive.
They all look like they got a shield on their head.
One of the more famous herbivores,
They all. Look at. Look at. Armored head. Armored head. Definitely an armored head. Maybe an armored head? They all look like they got armor on their heads.
survive. One of the more famous herbivores was the Lystrosaurus, a badger to pig-sized dicynodont that was one
Ooh.
of the most abundant animals around. It had a rather odd build, but it was not to be
Yeah, it
underestimated,
does.
as it
Look
sported
at his
powerful
face.
forelimbs and tusks that it may have used to dig deep burrows that granted much-needed protection. And interestingly enough, the art of digging seems to have been relatively common, as totally separate groups, like the cystophalids, also learned to burrow, using their broad skulls to displace large amounts of dirt.
So I'm guessing that's just telling you how dangerous the surface was where everybody's trying to hide underground.
Then on the opposite side of the spectrum, you had the parasaurs that took a different route and became armored tanks, kind of similar to ankylosaurs, minus the clubbed tails.
Oh, those are one of my
Specifically,
favorites.
Species in this clade often had large bony scutes that were set into their skin, and had highly ossified, dense, heavy bones that provided additional protection. They were also among the largest, if not the largest, late Permian animals to have lived, with the most famous member, Scutosaurus, having weighed over 1.2 tons and being similar in length to large
Yeah,
Gorgonopsids.
you a big boy.
At this weight, and given its frame, Scutosaurus was a slow-moving animal that relied on its armor to survive. And in its case, its defensive capabilities were further boosted by spikes that adorned its skull, and muscles that were so dense that they were basically impenetrable.
Wow.
This specific genus was only found within European Russia, but as a family, the parasaurs had a global distribution.
Get
Additional
out of
herbivorous
Russia.
groups worth mentioning include the Kingoridae, Emidopidae, Bidentalia, and Divinidae.
Oh, that one's cute.
As wild as the late Permian was, it did have one silver lining, which was that you didn't really have to worry about looking up.
Why does the water look toxic? Oops. Why does the water look so toxic? It looks like all the fish are dead. I wouldn't be drinking from that water, little man. I think you're gonna die.
Unlike the Mesozoic, which was home to giant pterosaurs
Ooh.
capable of eating literal dinosaurs, the
So the
Permian did not
Quetzalcoatlus?
really have any dangerous giants patrolling the sky.
Oh, it's
There
just
were
a
the
flying lizard.
griffinflies and Paleodictyoptera,
Who
which could have
knew?
given you quite the scare, but they were harmless to large animals, and weren't very abundant nor diverse, thanks to the Carboniferous rainforest collapse. Of all the things flying around, the largest animals were probably the Weigeltosauridae, a family of gliding reptiles that grew no larger than a big bat. And while having one in your hair would suck,
I mean, a big bat's pretty big. You seen those flying foxes? Those suckers are huge.
these guys were only dangerous to insects and spent most of their days on solid ground,
Just like bats.
or rather in the trees, as their morphology was highly developed for arboreal movement.
Oh, jeez.
To make up, though, for the lackluster skies, the late Permian had one more trick up its sleeve.
Oh,
so to
please, no
speak.
more.
And
We're
that
good.
was Mother Nature itself. If you've been following along, you
Mhm.
may have noticed that life seemed to be mostly concentrated in a handful of places.
Yes.
Mainly European Russia and
Mhm.
Africa. This
Yeah.
was because large chunks of land were borderline uninhabitable, with estimates suggesting an average temperature of 35 Celsius or 95 degrees Fahrenheit, making it twice as hot as the present.
Year
This
round?
oppressive heat contributed to severe aridity that plagued the supercontinent, and resulted in absolutely massive deserts near the equator where life was fairly devoid. To make matters worse, to the north you had the Central Pangaean Mountains, an
Mhm.
extensive mountain range that spanned across the entire horizontal length of the continent,
Damn.
and creating areas that were prone to severe droughts. To put this into perspective,
Oh.
if such conditions popped up in the present, life would take a serious downturn. And the crazy part is that this nightmarish climate was rather tame for the late Permian. Because if you stick around long enough,
Oh, that
until
looks like
approximately
literal hell.
252 million years ago, you would have witnessed the Earth turn into an apocalyptic wasteland, thanks to the late Permian extinction, otherwise known as the Great Dying, which is a fitting
Oh.
name considering it was Earth's worst extinction event of all time. It is commonly believed that this doomsday event started from the eruption of the Siberian Traps, or rather was caused by the eruptions that created the Siberian Traps, a large region of volcanic rock in Siberia that's about the same size as Western Europe.
Damn.
These eruptions are unlike anything ever seen by humanity,
Oh
and
my
decimated the
God.
entire planet, causing lava flows a kilometer or 0.6 miles thick, and spewing out enough carbon dioxide and sulfur to heat up the surface even more.
Oh, that's
In
not
some
good.
places, it's thought that the average temperature year-round would have risen to be the same as the average temperature of Death Valley during its hottest month.
Oh.
And if you somehow had
not
supernatural
good.
heat resistance, you still likely die from choking on the constant spewing of different gases that led to a drastic drop in oxygen, leading to numerous hypoxia events. And just in case you needed any more evidence that this time was seriously messed up, then also know that some studies report that these volcanic eruptions caused significant damage to the ozone layer, which may have increased ultraviolet radiation by over 5,000% in some parts.
That's
Debates
not good
linger on
at
how
all.
long these effects lasted, but
Probably
we
a
do know that by
while.
the end of them, the Earth was a very different place, with 57% of all biological families
Holy
and
shit.
83% of genera having gone extinct. For comparison, while more abrupt, the KT extinction, which killed the dinosaurs, only killed off about 17% of biological families.
Oh.
And despite how bad things got on land, life in the water actually suffered even more, due to increased water temperatures and acidification. But if you took a dip, you wouldn't have burned to a crisp, and you may have actually enjoyed it, considering the sea temperatures during this event were likely that of a jacuzzi,
Ooh.
giving you just one more reason why you'd rather be in the water during this time than on land.
Would I get bubbles
Thanks
as
for
well?
watching, and until next time on Extinct Zoo.
Damn. I didn't. I mean, some of those. Oh no. Yeah. No. I will not be going into the Permian era. Oh my god. That was some crazy shit. Although it seems like it was like two species? Oh wait, was it one species and all of them are of the same species, right? Or was it two? No, what was it? It's not. Is it species or is it family? Anyway, they're like they're mostly the Gorgonopsis, like whatever family, is it family or species? Type, I'm just gonna say type of animal they were, but the Gorgonopsis plus most of the, it sounds like what most of the top predators were of the same what is the word? Is it species? I don't think it's species. Gorgonopsis is its own species, right? But same family, I guess would it be? Because they're all. I guess that was just the most. What you call it? The most.
And to further
God, what is the word? It's I don't even know. The best build from that era, I guess, would be the word. But yeah, no, it ended in a very, very terrible way with literal hell on earth, apparently. Yeah. Nah, I'm good. Like, could you imagine if this happened now? Oh, we'd all be fucked. At least, unlike them, we wouldn't have. Unlike these poor bastards, we wouldn't have to die from like the heat or the gas. If we wanted to go, we can go quick. Bullet sales would probably go through the roof. Because I know I would get one. Take me out. Take me out, buddy. I'm good to go. No, I'm not suffering through this. We're just gonna go the quick and easy way. But yeah, no, that was definitely an interesting watch. I'm not gonna remember all the scientific names though, but I'm gonna remember what they look like and what happened and what they did. Some of them were really cute. Oh my god, where was that? There's the one that like he was talking about how some of them were herbivores. It was like white. It was like white coated furry little bastard. It was adorable. And where was that? I think it was past year. I don't think I'm gonna see it anywhere, but yeah, I don't know which one I'm talking about. Right? For a little white one. It was adorable, and I loved it. It was cute. But yeah, no, that was a little fun watch. Sorry, throat's fucked up. But anyway, till next time, guys. Thank you for watching with me, and bye.